Now, for every photographer out there, I'm sure that the laptop and the computer is probably one of the most important product that you have to purchase if you want to actually do photography and videography today. And if you ask me, the M1 new MacBooks, and this is the MacBook Air by the way, is probably one of the best thing you can buy if you are a photographer that's going to travel around, a photographer that likes to go anywhere you want and edit your photos, and of course show your client photos quickly, easily, without carrying a lot of weight. And I think really the M1 Mac by Apple is probably one of the greatest change in the laptop industry. I'm Richard and welcome to ZP Productions. And today we'll be talking about this M1 MacBook Air that I have here. And I'm not going to do a full review. I'm just going to talk about some things that I really love, some things that you should buy if you really want to, increase or should I say improve your experience. And if you ask me, is it really worth to buy it today? Now, if you are a photographer, you know that you want to show your clients, your models or whatever, the photos that you take out there. And really, a laptop is one of the best way to do it, be it by tethering, be it by transferring the files in the field. You really need one of such laptops. And even then, after the shoot itself, you probably need a process, and you don't really want to have so many devices. So usually you have one powerful laptop to do all your job. This is the best situation. Now, the M1 MacBook, if you ask me, is probably the greatest leap in mobile laptop technology that I have seen in so many years. I mean, I almost changed the laptop almost every year and a half. I went from Surface Book, the MacBook Pro, the MacBook Pro 13, the MacBook Pro 15. In fact, this is my fourth MacBook, I think. And in between that, and that is like within like 10 years, I have at least used like 7 laptops. And if you ask me, the M1 Mac is probably the most impressive piece of hardware I have used as a laptop itself for the past 10 years of changing laptops so quickly. Now, if you ask me what is so great about MacBook, I will give you 3 important reasons. And the first reason is, of course, performance. The new MacBook Air is absolutely high performing. If you ask me, a laptop of its size, and this is the lowest version. If you have seen my previous review, this is absolutely the lowest version, the 1449 Sing dollars or 999 USD. This version of the MacBook Air performs easily compared to a laptop 2 to 3 times the size, 2 to 3 times the weight, and 2 to 3 times the price. I mean, my gaming laptop in certain situations will probably lose to this laptop, and in many other situations is at most par with this laptop. And my gaming laptop weighs twice the weight. It is bigger, it is heavier, and when you start doing anything, it creates a lot of sound. Very, very noisy. The fan has to go full blast just to do almost anything here. While the MacBook Air, this version, the M1 version, can run Lightroom, run Final Cut, do all my video editing, do all my photos without any problem. The performance on this laptop easily is equivalent to something about 2 to 3 times the price. This M1 Mac by Apple is really very impressive. The M1 chip is truly impressive. Now, the thing is that performance is one thing, but performance will probably not excite me enough, because in my lifetime of buying laptops, I have used things like the i9 mobile processors. I have laptops with like a 780, what is it? The GTX, I think 1080. I have purchased that kind of laptop before, a very high performance laptop. In fact, my previous laptop has a 2070 built into it. No, absolutely high performing laptop, 8 core 2070, 16 gig RAM. I mean, 16 gig isn't that impressive, 32 gig is more. But all the laptops I have used so far that can perform really nice and good, at home, on the table, sucks outdoor. Now, why do I say so? The MacBook Air here, the M1 Mac here, is the first laptop I can see that, without any power, doesn't lose in any way in terms of performance. I'll call this consistency. The MacBook Air, regardless is it on power, off power, no matter where you use, unless you're using in a very, very hot environment, the performance is absolutely consistent. There is no fan on this MacBook Air, but no matter what, I can always edit. If I say I want to edit my video on the bed, I can do it. If I want to bring it out and edit at Starbucks, so be it. If I want to do it after a shoot, I can do it. If I want to do it at a studio with no power supply unit, I can definitely get it done. The MacBook Air is just absolutely consistent. No matter where you bring it, what you do with it, is it on power, is it off power, regardless of the situation, it will perform. It will be as fast as it is plugged into a power supply. And I can tell you, as I said earlier, the performance is easily the power of 2 to 3 times the price, 2 to 3 times the weight. And now you have something that can be used anywhere. Have you last plugged the power out of an Intel laptop? I think that thing will slow down extremely badly the moment you pull it out of the plug. And I can tell you that almost any i7 or i9 laptop without a power supply plugged in will slow down drastically, that you can actually feel it. But no, on this MacBook Air, it is always consistent, absolutely consistent performance. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, and that is, if you ask me, the greatest thing in the end of the day, adding performance, consistency, and that is freedom. As I said earlier, the MacBook Air can be used without any power supply. Without any power supply, it can easily last with Final Cut Pro 3 to 4 hours. I think it's about 4 hours. It can last about 4 hours with Final Cut Pro. It can do Lightroom editing for about 3 to 4 hours. I have used many Intel laptops, as I said, in the past, and none of them could probably survive 3 hours with Lightroom and Final Cut Pro. But this guy can, and this guy is always running at full speed, while those laptops will slow down, will throttle, and they will have extreme fan. And really, this laptop is freedom. Firstly, it doesn't get very hot. It does get warm at the edge here, but it doesn't get like super hot. Secondly, it has no fan sound. You can use it in very quiet environment to get your job done. And this is a MacBook Air. It is extremely thin, it is extremely light. And if you ask me, you probably can carry this anywhere to get your job done without any issue at all. And this guy slides easily into any bag. And considering that its performance is still extremely high on and off power supply, this is absolute freedom. Really, really freedom. And not only that, Apple is always famous for having a very, very good LCD. And this definitely improves the entire performance. A good touchpad, a good keyboard, a good LCD. Really, this guy is absolute freedom. High performing hardware, consistent no matter where you use, and the total freedom to use anywhere and everywhere you want. If you ask me, in the last 10 years of using laptop, I've never been so impressed with a laptop before. I have used like workstation laptops before with Xeon cores. This is definitely the most impressive. Yes, it's not the fastest in the world today. There is easily laptops that run i9 core, max out spec with big fans, extremely huge graphics card. They will outperform this easily. But if you ask me, something in this package, in this size, that can get your job done, especially as a photographer, the M1 MacBooks from Apple is truly the most impressive piece of laptop I have seen in the last 10 years. Now, the problem with the M1 MacBook, of course, is Apple is being Apple, so they charge you a lot of money for many things, from storage to RAM. Any upgrades you do will cause the MacBook price to increase drastically. This is the lowest model, 1449, but if you just upgrade the RAM, upgrade the storage to 512 and 16 gig of RAM, this will cost over 2,000 Sing dollars, or I believe around 1,600 or 1,500 USD. So there is some things that you can improve in your experience. Let's say if you really want to just buy the cheapest Mac. Firstly, you can buy, of course, an external drive, and depending on how much budget you want to spend. Now, for me here, this is Samsung X5. This is a Thunderbolt drive, and on the MacBook, it runs really quick. It runs like 2,500 read and I think 1,300 write. And unless you are doing very, very huge file transfer, by the way, if you go read the review of this, if you do very, very huge file transfer, this thing will slow down. But for the purpose of caching and editing like Final Cut Pro videos, editing photos, this is more than fast enough, and it doesn't tax the internal SSD much, so it will never overheat, and you always feel like it is as responsive as an internal drive. So the Samsung X5 is some example of one such drive that can give you almost near internal drive performance through a Thunderbolt drive. Now, this is a bit expensive. There are alternatives such as the SanDisk Extreme Pro, and unless you are doing video editing like me, I'm doing a little bit of video editing, so I really need the throughput. But most other application, probably something like a 600 or 1,000 megabyte throughput will probably be more than enough. This is like 2,000 over megabyte throughput. And the other thing, if you ask me, a MacBook you should buy is a Bluetooth mouse. Now, there are many Bluetooth mouse in this world. I don't like the dongle, because the problem with the M1 Max, or should I say the problem with MacBooks in general, is that they don't have any standard USB port. So buying a mouse with a dongle, you almost can't connect this easily without having something jutting out and very disgusting looking. So buying a Bluetooth mouse is probably the best way to deal with your MacBooks. Now, of course, you can buy the Apple mouse. I personally don't like it because of its weird design. And if you ask me, one of the best mouse I really love is the Logitech This is the MX Master 2S, and I really love this because firstly, you can store a few presets, so you can control a few laptops, and then you can have a dongle to also connect to a desktop or something. But most importantly, it works on any surface, and it really increases the freedom I have with this laptop here. I can even use it on glass surface, ceramic surface, any surface that I could put my laptop on. This mouse and this laptop will work out really, really well. Any surface with Bluetooth, no extra connector, very responsive mouse, very effective, very efficient. Overall, if you ask me, the MacBook Air here, the M1 MacBook Air here, is one of the most impressive piece of hardware that has come out in recent years that isn't blowing your mind in terms of price. For its price, for its capability, it is outperforming anything in the market I can think of. Price and capability. Now, of course, as I say again, you can pay for something 3 to 4 times the price and outperform this MacBook, but that's not the purpose. I mean, you can easily outspec any laptop in this world with an extremely powerful desktop. But can you carry a desktop around? You can't. Now, you can, of course, have a laptop that is way more powerful than this laptop, but can you carry the laptop around? You can't. And of course, you can buy something like the XPS 13 or XPS 15. You can put the best processor into those things. Yes, it may actually be slightly faster, but how long? Maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. The moment it overheats or run out of power, it will be significantly slower. And definitely, those laptops cannot run 3 to 4 hours using Final Cut Pro. Well, this guy can. Of course, they don't have Final Cut Pro, but try running Premiere Pro on your laptop. I doubt it will ever last 4 hours that long. Very impressive, and overall, this is my video on the M1 Mac. As I said, this is not a review. This is about me raving over a piece of hardware, a piece of laptop hardware that for so many years never failed to, I would say, give me lukewarm feeling. Every single laptop before this was just an incremental upgrade, but the MacBook, if you ask me, is a generation leap, a true generation leap of mobile technology. And you really have to give Apple the credits for having Rosetta 2 being so compatible with a lot of creative software such as Lightroom. It works with Lightroom and Photoshop really well. I really don't have complaints about this laptop. I mean, I've been doing all my photos and videos in the last 1 week since I purchased it. I did about 2 videos and maybe about 3 photo shoots with it, and none of them I felt I need anything more powerful than this, and that is a feeling that I really love. And I've always been using it off power. I've always been doing it on the table here. We have no power supply, or I've been doing it in my living room, or doing it on my bed, or doing it in some Starbucks coffee shop, as I said. Very impressive piece of hardware, and I highly recommend that anybody who are interested in a laptop to carry around to do creative work, this is the laptop for you. Now, the MacBook Air is of course not the almighty, no weakness laptop in the world. There are some quirks if you ask me. Firstly, the 2 USB-C ports here, very limiting. This is the only port on this MacBook Air, the lowest port you can ever get. So if you are intending to, project it out or anything, or, connect multiple hardware, there is very little you can do. There's just 2 ports here. I mean, you need 1 port to even charge. Luckily, as I said, this laptop off power still is very fast. You probably don't need to charge it while using it, but yeah, you only have 2 ports here. The other thing, if you ask me, is that Rosetta 2 isn't that perfect. I have faced many crashes. So Lightroom has freeze before, Photoshop slowed down sometimes, like really rarely, it doesn't always do it. There are times that when I was using Studio One, Studio One is one of the DAW audio workstation softwares, and yeah, my Studio One 4 did like crash 1 or twice before. But that is like in most of my usage, it doesn't happen at all. Final Cut Pro has some very quirky bugs. Like suddenly the sound stopped playing. I mean, if you go online and read, I think you can probably see it. It's like sound suddenly stopped playing, or maybe, it just gets laggy in a very weird way. Like this particular part of video, it just gets laggy and you cannot understand why. Yeah, there are many quirks still in this M1 Mac. But all these quirks are so minor that I'm more than willing to give don't care about them and just get over it. Just save your files more often. The M1 Mac is probably the best performing piece of hardware in this form factor and at this price point that you can ever get in the last 10 years. I have never seen something this impressive. And that's about it for today. I hope you enjoy this. I mean, everybody here, who I believe most of you who are watching my channel are photographers. You're always trying to get the best deal. The M1 Max is probably one of the best deal you can ever get for a laptop. I mean, seriously, best deal for a laptop. I have never seen a 1.5K laptop be able to handle 4K video streams with 10-bit H.265, or have not seen any 1.5K laptop that can handle raw files of 40, 50, 100 megapixels without crashing or lagging like crazy in Lightroom. Truly one of the most impressive. Okay, that's about it for my raving of this laptop, and I will hope to see you next time. This is, of course, a very boring video. You've been just seeing me raving about it, and I hope you do enjoy something like a podcast now. That's about it for today, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.